Thank you, everyone, for joining. We're excited to have you here and to introduce the Bay Area Urban Nature Collaborative to you all. My name's Karen Verpeet. I'm Managing Director of the Resilient Landscapes Program at SFEI, and really excited to have you joining us today. So for the next hour or so, we'll be introducing you all to the collaborative. For those of you joining, please go ahead and add your name and affiliation into the chat just so that we can have a sense of who's here today. I'll provide an overview presentation, then we'll hear from a few panelists, which we're excited to have with us. And then my coworker Lauren is going to lead us through a Mentimeter listening session, really, which was our motivation in doing this, to hear back from you all about how the collaborative can help you and how we can best support your work. So let's dive into the overview. So we initiated the Urban Nature Collaborative really to address several problems. Nature in cities is heavily transformed and it's inequitably distributed, both within the cities and across the region, largely based on income. Watersheds and habitats cross over municipal boundaries, and there's not usually a lot of coordination that happens across those boundaries. There are no Bay Area regional urban nature goals, and people working on site scale design don't often have the tools and information that they need to really meaningfully integrate urban nature into their work. So backing up, what do we mean when we say urban nature for the collaborative? We're really talking about the 9 Bay Area counties, and we're talking about the developed urban core areas of those counties. So in this image, it's the light gray urbanized areas. We're not, for this collaborative, talking about the shoreline. There's already a lot of adaptation planning that's happening in that space. And we're also not talking about our natural and working lands that are up above our developed areas. So what that looks like in an urban context is a series of green spaces, parks and creek corridors. It's corporate campuses and county parks and streetscapes and people's front yards and pollinator gardens and green stormwater infrastructure. All of these things have in common that they're in a very urban context. And the opportunity, of course, where there are problems, there's always opportunity as well. We do have nature in our cities, and we want to conserve it and create more of it. And the solution that we've come up with to do that is the Bay Area Urban Nature Collaborative. It has 3 main solutions or goals. One is to collaboratively set a regional urban nature goal. Secondly, to provide tools and information to the people who need it, doing urban nature project work on the ground. And thirdly, to leverage each other's efforts and to de-silo what everyone is working on. So in terms of regional goals, for the Bay Area, we actually have quite a few regional habitat goals already. And there's a very distinct and noticeable gap in our urban areas. And that's the problem that we want to solve. Goals actually do matter. You can see here this dashed line in 1999. So this is not for urban nature. This is for our Baylands ecosystem habitat goals for our tidal marshes around the bay. 99, we set a goal, and you can see it's a real inflection point. There's a lot more attention, energy, funding, et cetera, that starts to funnel into tidal marsh restoration at this point. So goals do matter. We also want the goal to be as multi-benefit as possible. Of course, healthy urban nature / ecology, the biological aspects, but also clean water and also public health, and really targeting a multi-benefit goal that is at the center of that Venn diagram to try to really maximize our overall resilience and what we're gaining through that goal. The second solution is the tools and information, and this one is subdivided into 2. The first piece are the planning scale tools. So this is for people working at the watershed scale, the city scale, that are kind of thinking bigger than one particular project. And they need tools that are at that certain scale. Then you have the site scale tools for people that are working on their particular site, their particular parcel within a much bigger urban context. And they need different tools, much more detailed and fine-scaled. And it's really when you get both of these working together, the kind of top-down planning and the bottom-up site tools, that you're able to have the most impact and to really translate science into action. The third solution for the collaborative is collaboration. So we want to create an umbrella framework, connecting the dots between the many organizations that are seeing this moment and wanting to respond to the moment, and all preparing plans and different kinds of documents. And we want to sort of help coordinate across those efforts. The collaborative itself is set up in a fairly standard way, with a core team of SFEI staff doing the day-to-day, a steering committee, a technical advisory committee, and then ultimately work groups with hundreds of people, we're hoping, from across the Bay Area that are really sort of the driving engine behind this whole operation. And the work groups are touching on any number of topics related to urban nature, from biological sciences to social sciences. All of them touch urban nature in some way, and we want to have specialized conversations around these different topics. The work groups will have a call for participation to ensure that it's an open process, that anyone with experience or expertise can join and provide their input. Members will be from a broad range of sectors and parts of the Bay Area. Also, because it's a regional collaborative, most folks likely will be from the Bay Area, but we'll also include some outside perspectives from across the state and maybe across the country. So the goals of each work group would be to identify the problems that the collaborative can help solve, identify a roadmap and next steps of what does this topic need and how are we going to get there, and then identify key thresholds and parameters that are relevant to this multi-benefit regional goal that I mentioned earlier. So the outcomes, the results of each work group are defined action items for the tools and the information that people need, and also progress towards this multi-benefit goal. So this is part of why we have invited you all here today to have this conversation, is to help us identify which work group topics really float to the top as priorities. So you can see here on this slide 2 columns. The left hand is a list of topics from that we've summarized from various conversations that we've had with partners over the last year or so. The right-hand column is from our Next Generation Urban Greening project that just wrapped up in December. You can see that stormwater, green stormwater infrastructure, and clean water are on both lists, so that seems like maybe a natural priority. All of the items in green are vegetation related, right? Not surprisingly, this is the Urban Nature Collaborative. But which ones to prioritize? Which are more important? How do we kind of tackle these? And then also the others in black font, maintenance, public health, finance and governance, these are all really important things. And how do they stack up against the others in terms of conversations that are should happen sooner than later? In terms of overall process, this is obviously a very simplified overview of the Urban Nature Collaborative. We're somewhere between steps 1 and 2. We've identified partners and endorsers. We have 1 work group started with a funder, but we need to seek funding in step 2, convene work groups, and then have all of that build, like I was saying before, the work groups kind of build on one another to get to this regional goal in step 3. Our current priorities are to establish a steering committee to help develop a roadmap for how we'll be successful in the end, establish a technical advisory committee, identify priority work groups, as I noted on the earlier slide. We're also refining our funding model. So we're envisioning that we'll have 2 main funding streams for our day-to-day operations, likely a membership model that will fund things like newsletters and things like that. And then grant funding for projects and research and tools that we identify together that are needed for the region. We would pursue grants for those. And we'll get into more details on that in a moment. We also want to host events and develop a website, have a web presence, etc. So some things on our to-do list here. This is our leadership team working on the initiative, and the rest of our urban nature team and the various areas of expertise that we bring. We've also been very lucky and grateful to work with some partners that have agreed to be advisors. So this is outside of the formal steering committee and technical advisory committee roles. This is more of like a phone a friend kind of relationship. And so we're very grateful to these partners for their support. So now, shifting gears, these next few slides, just to be forewarned, have a lot of text and not a lot of images. I'm going to go through them very quickly, much faster than you could read all the words, except for maybe this one since I'm talking. But we will loop back on these, and actually Lauren is going to lead us through the Mentimeter exercise about these slides. So don't worry about these slides. Also, I didn't mention this at the top, but we will be making the recording and these slides available to everyone after the fact. So you can always come back and look at these at your own pace. So in terms of the benefits, this is what I was saying earlier. The distinction between some of the membership due funded items and some of the grant funded items. So these would be membership funded. So the benefits that we're envisioning that the collaborative would be providing are professional development opportunities for your staff, being able to connect with other professionals in similar roles in other cities or organizations, contributing through the work group process, hopefully, to regional resources that support all of this work, and also getting support. We're envisioning that we would set up like a ask an expert type of model where members could have an hour or two of SFEI staff time per year to call us up and set a meeting and talk through an issue that you're trying to resolve. So then switching gears now into the more technical resources. So these are the grant funded pieces that we're envisioning. And the overall goal for these is to increase regional efficiency and coordination, right? So we'll have these regional tools that anyone can access, thereby decreasing individual organizational costs. So not every city, not every firm will have to go out and get certain data sets because they're available regionally. So that's the overarching thinking around these technical tools. And they range from regional data sets, regional analyses and prioritization, what types of things should be happening where and why, technical assistance, templates and precedents and models. How have people in other places done this and what has been successful? Different tools like for plant palettes, scenario planning. If we do X, what results, what will happen, that kind of thing. Also guidance and resources. Again, this is a long list, but these are not as detailed maybe or technical, but provide really good information on different topics. And we'd be interested in hearing from you on what would be useful. And then we also envision having a web portal or an announcements dashboard where all of these resources are gathered in one place. It's kind of one-stop shopping for anything related to urban nature. And then, of course, how we envision supporting you all. So we don't anticipate that the collaborative would be adding work or adding requirements to your already full plates. We are hoping to help solve problems or help meet requirements that already exist. So in the case of cities and counties, there's the Water Board's regional stormwater permit and how to meet those requirements. There's also the Room to Roam Act that just passed the state legislature that takes effect in early 2028 that will have general plan updates for the conservation element that are very, very aligned with urban nature. And we'd love to think through that and make sure that you all have the regional resources and tools to be able to meet this requirement. Then also for water and flood control districts, the benefits of the collaborative are also to improve water quality and reduce flooding. So aligned with your missions and values for those types of organizations. And then CBOs, tribes, NGOs, private firms, we envision that basically the regional resources would be of value, just more broadly.